It goes back to Albert Einstein. If you don't understand compound interest, I guarantee you someone is making compound interest off you, and they're not going to tell you about it. The more you can understand how compound interest works, the more you can, I'll call it, secure your money, grow it securely so that you can actually be able to leverage it as well. So, what we wanted to highlight in this instance is the rule of 72. And what the rule of 72 is saying is you take 70, you divide the amount of interest that you're making in whatever the vehicle might be by 72, and this usually happens in any I'll call it tax deferred vehicle specifically, and I think outside of that we're talking somewhere around 120. But bottom line is the rule of 72 works pretty well with most interest rates that you have for any investment that you're working with. And so you take that 72 divided by the interest that you're making, that tells you the number of years it takes for your money to double just one time. Why does that matter? Well, if you're looking to build on the money that you have, if you're looking to run that a snowball down the hill and build as much as you can, if you're looking to build as much income as possible, the best way you can do that is put your money in a position to where it can double multiple times. So the amount of time it takes for that money to double once gives you a cycle, a compound cycle. The amount of time it takes for your money to double. Well, the more you can reduce the amount of time it takes for your money to double, the number of compound cycles increase, which in turn turns into more money for you. So I wanted to highlight the rule of 72. So a quick example as it relates to the rule of 72, not to make this too difficult. But let's say you've got a 9% return on an investment. And if we were to divide 72 by 9%, what do we get? Well, 72 divided by 9 is 8. So what that means is in 8 years, it would take your money to double just one time. And so in truth, if we could reduce that amount of time and get our money to double more than once within that same period, what we can do is put ourselves in a position where we can cut those cycles in half and therefore generate more income. Why do I share this? Well, I go back to Emma. Emma's objective was to get her $50,000 working for her. And she hated banks. So that's the reason it was sitting in her closet. And what we learn about Emma is she is not excited about putting her money in Bank of America, which would allow her savings to grow at somewhere around 0.02%. But she is looking at this high yield savings account that maybe would do a little bit better, somewhere around 4.15%. So just looking at things from the rule of 72 perspective, how much time would it take for her money to double, that $50,000, for the $50,000 to turn into 100? How long would it take for that $50,000 to double just one time if it was sitting in a regular savings account? Anyone know?
It's like 120 years.
I like that. 120 years. You are a few thousand years off.
1,020 years.
You're still a few thousand years off. And here's the part. Here's the part that I would like for any of you to do who are watching this. Don't use this number. Go to your online banking account. Pull up your own savings account. Go to the last statement that you have. Scroll down there to the bottom or wherever they show what that interest rate is on that account, because they do try to hide it from you. And do the math yourself on the dollar amount that you have in savings and the amount of time it will take for that dollar amount to double just one time. And here, let me pull out my handy dandy calculator, just make sure I'm right before I write this down, because I thought I knew the number. Now I'm second guessing myself.
Veronica
So
says 3,600 years.
thank you. That's the number I was looking for.
Was she right?
She is 100% right.
Wow.
So 72 divided by 0.02 is 3,600 years. So if the objective is to grow your $50,000, it's going to take you 3,600 years to just allow it to double one time. In order for it to turn from 50,000 into 100,000. And just imagine what's the bank doing during that same period of time. How many times did you borrow that $50,000 back from the bank at some higher interest rate? How many times did they lend it out, return it to you specifically? Not lend it out to everyone else, but how many times did you go back to that same bank during that 3,600 year period?
Yeah.
Like, it's sad. It's sickening, actually. But if we're talking about a high yield savings account, I think we can agree a high yield savings account is better, but how much better? And you can use the 4.15, or if you just want to do quick math, what's four, a 72 divided by four even?
You got to
Four,
scroll up or shrink it so I
yep,
can see.
I got it.
Okay.
About 17 years. So in 17 years, it would take that $50,000 to double just one time. And remember Emma's goal. Emma's goal is to put her money in a position so that when she does reach retirement age, she's 32. So 17 plus 32 is 49. Okay, she's still not at retirement age. But her goal is to put her money in a position such that when she does hit retirement age, she has it available to her to help supplement her income.
What's
So
she
if it
gonna
takes,
do in 17 years with only 100,000 if she had 50 today?
and your favorite topic, inflation.
Yeah.
How much will that $100,000 be worth in 17 years?
Well, let's check it out.
And so, my point to all of this is there are better ways, but we have to be conscious of where's our money today? People laugh at me when I say my savings account has about $150 in it. And the reason my savings account has about $150 in it is because that's where all of my cash back stuff comes for all of my credit cards. And when it reaches a certain dollar amount, I take it out and I put it where it needs to be inside of my either my secure compound interest account or in my HELOC. But the bottom line is I don't keep money in my savings because I know that point zero. I love Bank of America, but that 0.02% isn't going to do anything for me. So what we wanted to do today is kind of just highlight some of these areas. And again, Emma's goal, her original goal when we talked, was to get a high yield savings account. So we'll talk about that. Or she's been hearing about this thing called an IUL. I think it was presented to her as a hybrid between a savings account and a secure compound interest account. And what we had peeled back the layers on is what we realized was we're just talking about an IUL. So ultimately, it's a high yield savings account compared to an IUL compared to a secure compound interest account. What would that look like? What does that do? And her objective, again, why was the money that she has sitting in her closet? Because the main goal was to not lose what she has, which I respect. So, not lose her money, be able to grow her money exponentially. And one of the challenges that I ran into with Emma was she was not very patient. So when she heard grow exponentially, that sounded like, well, in 5 years, I should have enough in my account for me to be able to go do other things. And I think the truth around compound interest is, again, it is not sexy. It takes time. But you give your money the right amount of time, it can produce the right amount of return for you. And then ultimately, she wants her money to be safe. She's looking for security.
That's not always what that means. It also means don't take my money. Okay? It means don't rip me off. I don't want to invest in a scam. I don't want to give you my money and then you take half of it just because and then I could lose it because
I,
and here's the thing, why don't these advisors lose fees? If you put your money in a broker is making the decisions for you, why did they get to keep the money in the fees and the money in the fees don't also decrease, right? Like, why is that not a thing? I looked it up, by the way. $50,000 in 17 years is worth 82,642. So it's not 50,000 anymore is I guess the point. I
right.
guess you'd have to kind of go backwards you'd need to have 82 for it to equal 50. That's a better way of saying it, right?
Yep. And I think Kelvin brings up a good point as well as it relates to the rule of 72. Um, just to be clear, that doubles as long as the interest rate is sustained every year. And you're absolutely correct. And so when you're talking about, I usually use as an example when I'm doing this live, I talk about my self storage facility. I've got a self storage facility in Bethesda, Maryland that brings us 12% return on an annual basis. And
Mm-hmm.
that 12% is absolutely guaranteed, paid out in 1% increments every month. So that 12% divided by 72 72 divided by 12, 6 years, 6 times 12. So every 6 years, my money doubles, right? And you're right. This only works if that 12% is consistent over the 6 year period. Otherwise, this number absolutely looks different. But the
Yeah.
cool part about that is your money's making money, and the money that your money makes continues to make more money. And that's that secure, uninterrupted compound interest part. So, what we wanted to start with is okay, so what if Emma got herself a high yield savings account? What does that look like? She got this 4.15% interest. She took the money out of the shoebox in her closet and she committed. And we've all been served these ads. And I think the 4.15, so we did this example what in June? I believe the 4.15 is even low at this point. I believe there are vehicles out there that maybe are closer to 5.15, if not above that. But we've all gotten this ad, I know I did, with the new Apple account, right? Your ability to put away money inside of a secure vehicle only so they could turn around and loan that money back to you. Basically, they're taking the same business model as Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
The Starbucks loyalty card, which in essence, people put so much money into their Starbucks card, and then Starbucks will turn around and use it as a bank and invest it and grow it and create millions of dollars off your hundreds or tens of or yeah, hundreds of dollars inside of that account.
And
So
what did the users get? That's the part. Why did they overfund their gift cards? That's essentially
right,
what they were, right?
that's exactly what they were doing.
Why did people do this? Stars. Stars. Literally. Points. You had to have hundreds, thousands of these stars, and you would do this so that you could get a free drink. They were lending out everyone's money so that you could have a free coffee.
It goes back to Albert Einstein. If you don't understand compound interest, I guarantee you someone is making compound interest off of you, and they're not going to tell you about it.